to our grant materials. And with $500 million in the first round, we were like, man, I wonder how many colleges that could be. It could take a lot of effort. So we kind of pinged the idea around to some folks at the Department of Labor and read the grant solicitation very closely. We kind of realized that CC wasn't in the position to apply for any of that money to be able to provide assistance. So we reached out to the Gates Foundation, who we all know have been doing a lot of great work in OER over the last few years, to see if they were interested in funding a sort of consortium to be able to provide this technical assistance to the grantees to really make sure that we get this program right. It could provide a really good precedent kind of going forward. So our consortia, the Open Consortia, is going to provide assistance to all the Department of Labor grantees. And the leads are going to be Creative Commons, CAST, Carnegie Mellon's Open Learning Initiative, and then finally the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. And Cable's going to just talk a little bit about, a little more in-depth about the description of the services that we're going to be providing.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everybody. How you doing today? So just to build on what Tim was saying, when this grant came out and the CC BY license was required on the grant, many of us in the open community said, this is the precedent-setting moment in open policy for, at least in the United States. It was a first, not a first globally. Other countries are way out in front of the U.S. in working with open policy, Netherlands being one of them. But this was a big deal in the U.S., and to the extent that it was $2 billion of public money, it was a big deal globally. And so, as Tim said, we at Creative Commons, and I was at the state board at the time, saw this not only as proper public policy. When public funds are used, the works that are produced with public funds should be either put directly into the public domain, or they should have a very open license on them so that they can be used, revised, remixed, and redistributed. So to the extent that we want these grantees to be very successful and we want them to have all the technical supports that they need, that's really where this consortia came from. So what I'm going to do is kind of walk through very briefly what each one of these partners is going to do for the different ELO grantees. So Creative Commons, probably pretty obvious, right? There's a requirement to license with CC BY, so, but that's, as you know, is slightly more complicated than just slapping the logo on a page, right? The licenses are machine readable. You can use the license chooser to put additional meta tag information in. All of that gets put into machine readable code, and proper implementation of the license is, again, taking that code and getting it into the web page of the digital objects so that they can be found on the web. And while we all know that it's not that difficult, if you don't know anything about open licensing, you don't know anything about CC, that's a bit of a hurdle. And to the extent that there's going to be a lot of stuff built with a CC license on it, we want to do everything that we can to make sure that this content is properly marked up. So that's one service we're providing. Another service is helping with OER search and discovery. So I made some comments in an earlier session about it's good not to build everything from scratch, but rather the proper starting point is to ask what have others done that I might be able to use and iterate on and reuse other people's existing OER. And so we'll be assisting the grantees with that task, sort of helping them know where are the searches, how do you search for open license, what does that look like, to the extent that there are many grants that are similar in terms of the domains they're looking at. So there are multiple healthcare grants. There are multiple clean energy job grants that have been given. We'll be doing some extra work to help find resources for them, open textbooks, OERs that may be useful to them. So for example, Carnegie Mellon has biology and chemistry courses, and those are prereqs to every single one of the nursing programs that has been funded by the Department of Labor, and it would seem silly, at least to us, that you would want to start from scratch building a brand new chemistry course when you could take, there are lots of OER chemistry courses out there that you should know about that, you should start with those. We're providing other services as well, but I'll get to, well, I guess real briefly, CC is the project lead on this, so we'll be running conferences around this. If you're a DOL grantee, we'll be running a kickoff conference and a closing conference. The kickoff conference to really walk them through all these services in great detail. It'll be a multi-day conference. We're going to bring everybody in the United States together so that they can meet each other, but also so that we can really articulate what the services that we're going to provide and then adjust our services to meet their needs. So we'll be surveying them in advance and meeting with them at the Department of Labor kickoff, which is going to happen before ours. Open Learning Initiative, also, you can probably guess, they're going to be bringing their expertise in best practices in instructional design, in collecting data on curriculum, and using the feedback loops that Carnegie Mellon has been working on for multiple years. Some of these things have been explicitly called out, just like the CC BY license was explicitly called out in the grant. There was a section that talked about continuously assessing effectiveness of the strategies in order to improve the program and build evidence about effective practice. So to the extent that this is really called out in the grant, to have somebody like Carnegie Mellon with some expertise in thinking about how do you collect data on your students' use of the courseware, and then how do you use that data to iteratively improve the course in future revisions. Carnegie Mellon is also going to, so that's their model, and we all know their 4 feedback loops. Carnegie Mellon is also going to provide really 3 levels of service, and so is CAST. And so let me take a moment just to be clear about this. I guess I should stay over here so you can hear me. We are going to provide a level 1 service to all of the grantees. And there are, how many grantees?
32 this first one.
32 plus, and we're guessing another 5 or 6. So we're probably going to have 40 grantees or so by the time. So for all 40 grantees, everybody gets a set of services. And that includes all the Creative Commons services, all the services the state board will be providing, which I'll get to in a minute. And then a set of services from CAST on accessibility, and a set of sort of general instructional design best practices from Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon and CAST are going to provide also level 2 and level 3 services to smaller groups of grantees. So level 2 services for Carnegie Mellon is essentially, if you'd like to use the Carnegie Mellon platform, the tools, the cognitive tutors, all their back-end artificial intelligence stuff they've got for your curriculum, but you want to build your own stuff, that's kind of level 2 service. They provide support around that, and CAST is in there working deeper on accessibility issues with folks. And then level 3 is kind of the full Carnegie Mellon and CAST treatment. I mean, they're at your campus, they're working with your folks, they've traveled to you, they're an integral part of your team, and it's, I don't know if you know, but Carnegie Mellon spends on average $400,000 or $500,000 each course they develop. And it's a very intense process. And so they're going to do that with a very small subset of the grantees, probably 3, 4, 5 of the grantees. And what Carnegie Mellon, CAST, and our project will be looking for as to who should those folks be. We're looking for collaborations across the project. So to the extent that there might be, say, 3 nursing programs that are funded, that would be a natural place to say, look, let's not do 3 different nursing programs 3 different ways. Is there a chance to build something with a much, with more resources, with more sort of intense support that you can all leverage and use? CAST, as I mentioned, this is a group out of Cambridge, well known for their expertise in accessibility. Again, in the Department of Labor grant, accessibility was explicitly called out as a requirement in everything that's produced, and so CAST will also be providing those 3 levels of service. And to prepare for this project, even before the grantees were named, CAST has been working very closely with Carnegie Mellon Open Learning Initiative to adjust the OLI platform to be much more accessible than it currently is. And that's been a challenge and a problem with the OLI platform, and I think they would freely admit that. And CAST has identified many things that could be better from an accessibility standpoint. And so their technicians have already been working together. CAST, of course, has a set of best practices. This is an example of what they will bring to all of the grantees, is their documents, their brochures, their one-pagers, but also webinars to go with that, and some light consulting for everybody. And then if you're at level 2 or level 3 in the services, you get much more hands-on, face-to-face interaction with their teams. State board, and did Connie step out? She already left. State board, this is where I was when we started writing the grant. So we said, basically, look, the state board has done some things around our open course library project, which was all about developing an entire general education curriculum and putting a CC BY license on it, we encountered some barriers, as you might imagine, some struggles, some challenges, and we overcame those successfully in working with the legislature, in working with presidents and trustees and faculty unions and student leadership and provosts. And I mean, there are different conversations, different challenges, different solutions, different barriers at all of those levels, and the state board has struggled through that and been very successful over the past couple of years. And so there's a lot of best practices to share there that these grantees will also struggle with. And so that's part of the reason the state board's there. They're also there really to talk about adoption strategies and, you know, not mandates, but what sort of incentives and carrots can be put in place. How do you set the proper context so that people move from not invented here to, yes, I'm very eager to use somebody else's high quality materials. And they've got a lot of experience with that. And then this last one I think is particularly interesting. I don't know if this is true in universities around the world, but in community colleges in the United States, almost every community college system is adopting some kind of performance-based funding policy, which essentially says if your outcomes, if your student completion rates go up, if your other key performance metrics that you've identified as being important go up, then your base budget will benefit from that. And if they go down, your base budget will be negatively affected. And this has become something that many, not all, but many community colleges have engaged in this conversation. In Washington State, we connected this idea with adoption of high quality OER that help those performance metrics. And some of those metrics include affordability for students. And so there's an interesting, nuanced conversation in the policy realm that the state board is uniquely has lived that and wanted to share with others. You want to share the timeline?
Sure, a little bit more on the timeline. Cable alluded to it. Wave 1 is launched as of September 26th, I believe. The Department of Labor announced 32 grantees. Here's where they are right now. Almost $500 million was expended. The grant awards range from $2.5 million up to $20 million for a consortia application. As you can see, some of the states haven't been represented yet. The department is working with them to submit an application if they haven't already, because it is written into the program that all states will receive at least $2.5 million. Cable had mentioned the Department of Labor is actually holding off a kickoff meeting for all the winning grantees for Wave 1. Where they're going to be explaining the program to them, and then our consortia, the Open Project, is having a conference as well. Both of those dates are TBA right now, just because the announcement was made just a few weeks ago. It's kind of up in the air whether the Department of Labor is going to be accepting input on suggested changes before Wave 2 solicitation is released. So we're going to be kind of watching that. They've already done a series of at least 2 web chats where the public can provide comments and suggestions via that format. And we obviously contribute to that as well. Wave 2, the solicitation for grant applications, is also TBA, but probably sometime this winter. They want to push the money out the door before it goes away. Each wave is going to be lasting 3 years, so that's an important piece to remember. So, the completion of all 4 waves could be pushed out to, 2016, 2017? Yeah. I want to talk about one related project that we're working on that came about in the interim after the department announced the DLL grants, and that's the Learning Resource Metadata Initiative. And this initiative is in collaboration with the Association of Education Publishers. And its goal is to build a common metadata vocabulary for educational content. And we all know that the OER search and discovery has been a really tough nut to crack. We hope this will be a piece of that puzzle. The origination of the idea is obviously, teachers and students, if they can't find high quality materials, what's the point? And everyone's using web scale search to find things these days. We need to be able to enable some of those things. I should also note that this process is happening in public, and we have a